For nearly a century, the US dollar has been the lifeblood of the global economy, the currency of oil, trade, and trust. But that era might be ending. From Beijing to Brazil, world leaders are questioning the dollar's dominance. Sanctions, soaring debt, rising inflation. The cracks are growing. Is the American dollar losing its grip on the world? This is the untold story of the dollar's slow dethroning. To understand the fall, we need to understand the rise. In 1944, as World War II neared its end, 44 nations met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They made a deal. The US dollar would become the world's reserve currency, backed by gold. Why? Because America held 2/3 of the world's gold supply. But in 1971, President Nixon broke that link. The dollar became fiat, backed by nothing but faith. And yet, it didn't collapse. In the 1970s, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia. Sell oil only in dollars. Thus was born the petrodollar system, cementing the dollar's global dominance. Fast forward to today. The US has printed more money in the last decade than ever before. In response to crises, 2008, COVID, the Federal Reserve flooded markets with trillions. The result? Inflation, rising debt, a weakening dollar. And the numbers are staggering. Over $34 trillion in national debt. Interest payments alone surpassing military spending. Declining global trust. Is this the beginning of the end? Around the world, countries are quietly breaking up with the dollar. In 2022, Russia and China began settling oil trades in yuan. India paid for Russian oil in rupees. Saudi Arabia is now openly discussing non-dollar oil sales. Central banks from Brazil to Turkey are buying record amounts of gold, not dollars. Why? Because US sanctions weaponize the dollar. And nobody wants to be the next target. This movement is called de-dollarization, and it's gaining serious momentum. And yet, for all the headlines, the dollar is far from dead. Over 60% of global reserves are still held in US dollars. The majority of international trade, including commodities like oil, wheat, and gold, still flows through the greenback. Why? Because no other currency has the same liquidity, trust, and global infrastructure. The Chinese yuan, still tightly controlled by Beijing. The euro, politically fragmented. Gold, illiquid. Crypto, volatile. We live in a dollar-dominated system, and it's hard to leave a system you're trapped in. But let's say the dollar does lose its status. What happens? Imports get more expensive. Inflation surges. Interest rates rise. America's borrowing power collapses. The US would no longer be able to print its way out of debt. And its geopolitical influence, from military alliances to sanctions, would crumble. In short, America would look very different. But it's not just America that suffers. The collapse of the dollar could destabilize global markets, trade, and financial institutions. The end of the dollar won't be sudden. It won't make headlines. It will be silent, gradual, and irreversible. The world isn't preparing for collapse. It's preparing for something else. A multipolar financial world with more than one center of gravity. The dollar isn't dead. But for the first time in a century, it's not invincible.